Vigilant Broadcasting, the station of opportunity, presents The Chronicles of Doing Too Much with your host, Angel Riley.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of the Chronicles of Doing Too Much. I'm your host, the one and only Angel L. Riley, and I am so excited that you joined me tonight. Oh, my gosh, we are going to have a real-life conversation, just everything. I have a topic scheduled for tonight and meeting notes, and I literally just walked into the studio maybe about 3 minutes ago to jump on to do this broadcast, because we like to broadcast live. And I'm realizing that the studio notes that I had, the notes for the topic tonight, apparently I left them at the 9 to 5 office because I'm not done working for the 9 to 5. So I'm going to talk about, because this is a timely and relevant and in-the-moment topic, especially while we're talking about financial literacy. Monday night we talked about budgeting, and now we're going to have to talk about some budgeting 2.0, and the budgeting 2.0 is, how do you set yourself up where you can walk away from a 9 to 5 and completely work with your own business when you're pursuing your passion and living your best life possible. So I thank you guys for just letting me take this opportunity to coach myself, in addition to sharing things that we all know we need to do to get to the next level. So first and foremost, I'm having a day. I'm having a week. I am having just a lot right now when it comes down to the 9 to 5. It was, I've been doing like 10, 11, 12-hour days, which is not a problem. I know that there are times in my role at the 9 to 5 where I'm going to have to pull some long days. But when you go in, you work those days, I still run businesses. I still have a broadcast. I have a marketing, firm that I'm putting together and I'm bringing up and rising up. I have my direct sales business, which is actually two-pronged, because I do sell a product as well as manage a team. That's essentially two businesses, because I, have a profit and income coming off of both segments, and the activity that I do determines what that income looks like from each element, each segment of that. So because I have a long day at the 9 to 5, that doesn't mean everything that I do outside of the 9 to 5 have to stop. And then there's times like today, or any day, or every day, to be honest. There are times where the 9 to 5 gets in the way of where your passion and your dream and your love is. So we have to do, I believe it's Oprah Winfrey who has the quote, do what you have to do until you're able to do what you want to do. And a lot of times having that security and that comfort of the 9 to 5, whether it's building up a bank account to have that year's salary of savings, or whether it's making sure the bills are paid while we got our startup off the ground, no matter what it is, we have to do what we have to do in order to be able to do what we want to do, and until we're able to. So the first and foremost, I want you to set a goal for yourself. And if that goal is, I'm leaving the 9 to 5, you lay down and you say, I'm leaving the 9 to 5. You always hear me talk about goal setting here. And that's because if, you don't have a goal, then you don't know what you're really pursuing. You don't know what you're going after. So now let's start putting some actionable steps, some action steps to support that goal. Financial literacy, we're talking about budgeting. It was really personal to talk about the importance of budgeting in terms of your household and making sure your bills are paid on time and in full. And then with budgeting, helps you to look to see if you have any financial shortfalls somewhere. Now when you're budgeting to leave your 9 to 5, the first thing that you have to identify if you're going to go out and work on your own is, what's your baseline? What do you need to have coming in as a baseline every single month in order to, hang your hat on the shingle and go out on your own to grow? So that's the first thing. So your first baseline is, what do your monthly expenses look like? just your basic living expenses, the mortgage or rent, your utilities, car payments, insurance, credit card bills, life insurance, whatever your regular monthly bills are. The first thing is that you need to establish exactly how much is all of that. What is it that you need to sustain? All right? So that's why budgeting is important, because if you already have that written out, you already have that plan, you already know, what type of money is going out every single month, just for your basic living expenses, then that's going to be an easy pull for you to say, all right, this is how much it costs for me to live. Set the budget. How much are you spending on groceries every month? That's an essential. What are the essentials? So once you come up with that number, now you're going to start to look to say, where can I save? Where are there some areas that I can reduce some of these expenses to get it as low as possible, where I'm not going to jeopardize my lifestyle, when I hang my hat on the shingle, but where is it that I can really, really lower it? So if you're carrying credit card debt, that's the first place to start. And that was actually what I was going to talk about tonight, with different ways to get rid of your credit card debt, because living your best life possible and not having the financial stress, but also if you're an aspiring entrepreneur and ready to go out on your own, you want to be sure that in worst case scenario, absolutely worst case scenario, you have absolutely no other option, including going back to get a job for a temporary time frame. There might be instances where you may have to use a credit card. It's easier to pull out a zero balance credit card than it is for you to be trying to apply for something and not get the credit that you need for whatever that need is. It also helps you to build your credit score, so it'll be a little easier for you to do other things in the future. But first and foremost is you want to be sure that you eliminate all of that credit card debt. Now, I am from the school of thought that is zero credit card debt. So don't say, oh, I only have a balance on one card and it's only $2,000 or $3,000. Okay, don't use the income that you're generating from your own business to pay that. That's income that you can use from that 9 to 5. That's essentially, of course, you're going in and doing the work at the 9 to 5, but it's essentially something you can use to get rid of it. Or if you're hanging your hat on the shingle, one of the things I did with my direct sales business is I paid off my credit card debt. So as income, when I was generating income, generating a profit, I had a percentage of that I was investing back into my business, because I have a product-based business, and then the rest of it was going towards credit card debt until I eliminated that credit card debt. All right, so look at that. Get rid of all of that. And then let me tell you, my personal experience, when you tackle that credit card debt, is suddenly you have so much more money. You have so much more money left in the month, because you're not paying on, something that you basically borrowed. So if I use my American Express for that dress and I don't pay that bill in full in a month, now I basically borrowed money to buy that $50 dress. I'm not buying a dress that much. It better be a darn good dress to be $50 for me. But, you've gotten rid of all of that borrowed money. You're getting rid of having to pay interest on that borrowed money, because you're paying a lot more than what you originally spent, because you got that interest rate, unless you're on one of those cards with the zero introductory period or so forth. And so that's the first thing you want to do, is get rid of the credit card debt. One of the things that helped me to get rid of mine so quickly was that I actually I paid a lot of them off. And then when I got down to only having a balance on like 2 or 3 at that time, I applied for a debt consolidation loan. Got the loan. It was a lower interest rate than any one of the credit cards, and I paid them off in full. The debt consolidation loan was for 3 years, no prepayment penalty. So I basically doubled up the payments to pay that debt consolidation loan off, and then that eliminated all my credit card debt, as well as making sure that I didn't have that debt consolidation loan to pay either. And I saved money because of the interest rates were such a significant difference. All right, so that's the first thing you want to eliminate. So then that gets you really down to your baseline. So you're like, okay, I have and I'm making up numbers, $2,000 in mortgage. I put out probably $800 for utilities, and I'm just making up numbers. I don't want you guys to be like, where she live or where she don't live and stuff like that. I'm just making up numbers. And then, I have a $500 car payment. My car insurance is $200, and I spend $200 on groceries a month. So you're going to basically take all of those numbers to calculate and say, and I'm just making up numbers because I'm not doing the actual math, but say, okay, my baseline living expenses are $5,000. So when you look at getting ready to hang your hat on a shingle, when you're ready to look at making that transition, first thing my recommendation is to say I need a minimum of 6 months, maximum of 12 months of that baseline. And I'm sorry, guys, I had a little bit of a tickle in my throat. But that's what you want to look at. So if it's $5,000 is what you need every month just to cover your baseline expenses, now your savings goal is to get 6 months of that, which is what, $30,000. You want to have $30,000 in an interest-bearing account that you don't have access to. It is in case of an emergency. So you know that for 6 months your living expenses are covered. That's the minimum. Ideally, you want to get $60,000 in that account, because ideally you really need 12 months. For 12 months, so in the worst thing that can happen, you know that you will have food and shelter and all the basic amenities provided for 12 whole months, because you got all of your expenses down. And if it push come to shove, if you needed to use a credit card for something, you can, because you got zero balance on your credit cards, and based on what action plan you have in place, you will be able to pay that credit card back. You're not going to do anything that's, outrageous or put you into more debt than what it's worth if you do the absolute worst thing. So that's how you start. So start with that 6 months. So we're going to start with the $30,000. And now you're going to look and say, all right, well, I paid that credit card debt off, finished up. Maybe I was doing $600 a month in credit card payments. So now what you're going to do, as long as it's not showing you a financial burden because you're going to live like a pauper, you're going to take that $600 a month that you were putting on credit cards, and now you're going to put it into your savings account. And that savings account that you're putting it into, that interest-bearing account, and it doesn't have to be a savings, it's just something that you have difficulty getting access to, you're going to put that $600 a month into that interest-bearing account, and then that's going to be where you start building up to get to that $30,000. Now you also want to look at the income that you're generating from whatever that side hustle is, whatever that business is. And then not necessarily all of it, because you do need to reinvest back into your business, but come up with the percentage. So if you're averaging, say, $1,000 a month from your business, and again, I'm making up numbers, you want to take 30% of that $1,000, and that's going to be your pay. And the other 70% is in reinvestment back into the business. So the 30% that is your pay, that pay is going straight into that savings account. Because the goal and the budget behind that is you want to get that 6 months of living expenses there. The more money you start to make in your business, or the lower your overhead expenses are, the more you're able to save aggressively, the more aggressive you can get by putting money into that interest-bearing account. All right, so I'm telling you how to write it out. Write out what the bare minimum, what your minimum living expenses are, and get that saved. All right, second thing is you want to start looking at and say, on average, and you should be doing this anyway with your profit and loss statements, but on a monthly basis, how much does it cost me to operate my business? So if it's costing you at this point $800 to operate your business, you want to now say, what do I need to do to be able to operate my business for the next 3 months without me having to touch anything? If the worst case scenario was to happen, how long can I operate my business? So if it's $800, and that's probably a really low number, but I'm just trying to help you to establish that budget. If it's $800, then you're looking at adding $2,400 to that account. Because now you have the funds there to operate your business without touching your basic necessities, your basic overhead. So now you have a minimum of 6 months living expenses. You're going to have food and shelter, and you're going to have a minimum of 3 months of your business operating expenses. Now, ideally, I want you to start with saving 6 months of your business operating expenses. So, and this is, again, an account that you have difficulty taking money out. And as you continue to make a profit on your business, you're going to continue to put that money into the account. So you'll essentially and eventually build up to you will have at least a year worth of business operating expenses. Now, I would do my business operating expenses as a separate account from your basic living expenses. And we can talk about that in more detail later in the month. All right, so now we're budgeting, we're looking at, and we know what we have to do. We have to have, a minimum of 6 months of living expenses to, ideally 12 months before we're going to say I quit to the 9 to 5. For the business, we want to have a minimum of 3 months of your business operating expenses, maximum of 6 months of your business operating expenses. And this is just the business operating expenses. All right, so that can include a lot of things, internet service, vehicles, inventory, if you have a product-based business, marketing budget, supply budget, whatever you have in that profit and loss statement, whatever is on your financial account, that's what you're looking at with 3 months to 6 months. Because you're not going to touch that money into worst-case scenario. And then that's why you're going to also keep it in an interest-bearing account. You definitely can go ahead and you'll have some tax liabilities there. I'm not a tax professional. I'm not going to try to speak on that. But you definitely want to have those into accounts that you have difficulty accessing because they are worst-case scenario. So now that you know exactly how much money you need to have saved, I'm giving you some basic strategies to break it down. Get rid of the credit card debt because you're going to need that credit card balance and the availability and flexibilities of those credit cards if you get a worst-case scenario. So get rid of that. And you want to make your overhead expenses as low as possible. So now you're saying, Angel, I need $30,000, 6 months minimum for my living expenses. I need $2,400, 3 months minimum to operate my business at the current level. But I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to get bigger, and I want to be aggressive. And the 9 to 5, just like mine stressed me out today, you were saying the same thing. Like I'm stressed out for no apparent reason. I have to go harder. I'm going to push. I got to make this happen. And I want to make this happen within the next year. Well, that's definitely possible, but you're definitely going to have to prioritize. You're definitely going to have to say, this is what I'm looking at doing. So if you want to do $30,000 in the next year, you go ahead and divide that $30,000 by 12. Or if you want to say, I'm going to do the whole 12 months, do that $60,000 by 12 where you're down to say, okay, I got to save $5,000 a month. How am I possibly going to do that? So we've eliminated, all our credit card debt. Now we're taking the money that we would pay every single month on our credit cards. We're going to start putting that into a savings account. That's going to start building it up. Second thing that you're going to start to do is do an assessment of your bills. All right, so we're going to look at the car insurance. All right, is my deductible right sized for me? Is changing my deductible, increasing my deductible even an option? I carry a $250 deductible on my vehicles, which is a lot of money, but I look at it to say, is it easier for me to produce $250 if I have to file an insurance claim, or am I going to have $500 to put out? So that price difference is only probably about $80 a month in my car insurance premium. To me, it makes more sense for me to keep that increase than pay that $80 a month. But to somebody else, they're like, you know what? If I'm going to get into something and I have a $500 deductible, it is what it is. Even if I have to put it on one of my zero balance credit cards, I'm okay with that because I'll be able to pay it off. I'm going to save that $80 a month. All right? You just reduce that, increase your deductible, reduce your insurance premiums. Now, that money that you're saving, if it was an $80 difference, now you're adding that $80 to your savings account. You want to look at, and this is where a lot of us can cut costs, and I'm not even going to share with you guys what my cable, internet, and phone bill is. I'm not even going to share. It's too much. That's how much it is, too much. So do I need, and I'm actually doing this right now, transparent moment. I have 4 cable boxes. I live alone. I have company. But why do I need a cable box on 4 televisions? All right, 5. It's 5 of them. Yeah, 5. Actually, I actually have 5 cable boxes. All right, so let's take a look at that and let's assess that correctly. All right, where do I actually watch TV? I only use 2 of the 5 cable boxes. So here's a big deduction, and I looked at my bill, and I'm paying $12 a month rental fee for those cable boxes. So I'm going to get rid of 3 of them. That's a $36 savings for me on my my phone, internet, and TV package. All right, second thing is I have all the channels. I barely turn my television on, guys. But yet I need all the channels. Don't ask me why. I just do. All right. So if you're like me and you're like, I need all the channels, calling your provider to say, hey, do you have any packages or specials, where you can get some reduced pricing, and in that way you can not give up that necessity, that luxury. You do that. Or you can just say, okay, I don't really watch TV, so am I fine with basic? Does that knock $100 off my bill? And I'm making up numbers. That's something to do. Let's knock that off. You just need whatever the basic package is. Lower that bill. So when you look at it, that could possibly be and I'm making up numbers, that could possibly be $136 or $124 savings, $136 savings for you. So you take that money, that savings, and add it into your savings account. All right, so you see how I'm talking about where you're budgeting, you're reducing your expenses, and you're getting yourself to a point where we said you need $5,000 to live, but we're still kind of going in and inching off of that $5,000 and doing additional cuts and reductions, and then we're putting it into the savings account to help us with rapid growth. I'm also a fan of Digit, which is an app that you connect to, whatever bank account you want it to connect to. And then Digit actually is doing it'll text you what your daily balance is. I love that. And it's a fee. This is a fee-based app. And I love the balance, how it tells me exactly what my checking account balance for the account I have hooked is. And then what Digit does, it basically is monitoring your spending, and it's taking small amounts of money out of your account and putting it into a savings account that they manage. And then you can actually set up, I have a rainy day fund and I have an emergency fund. And I know you guys are like, okay, Angel, what is the difference? Well, to me, a rainy day fund is money I'm saving. So if I decide I want to have that $50 dress, I could go and buy that $50 dress. It's a rainy day for my luxuries. That's what I call my rainy day fund. All right? My emergency fund is what are my living expenses? Oh, crap. My air conditioner just went out. I need $4,000. Where can I get that money from without putting it on a credit card? So Digit helps you to save those monies. You can set the financial goals and so forth, and even down to how much money you want to save and when do you want to have it saved by. It will track your progress, give you updates, everything. I love Digit, okay? So that's a way to do it where you have additional funds little at a time. You know, when I re-engaged with my Digit account, I saved $260 that first month. That was huge because I'm like, how am I not missing that money? One of my girlfriends did Digit, and she has shared she did, like, in her first month, I think she did, like, almost $1,000 in her first month. And she was like, oh, my goodness, how did I not miss this money? So sometimes you're doing better than you think you are. You know, you just need that little extra help. And Digit is that little extra help that you get when you're doing better than you think you are. All right, and then you just want to look at and start, you know, like we want to talk about the financial fast, but really cutting back and saying, I am not spending any unnecessary money. I'm going to reduce how much I'm spending when I eat out. I'm going to reduce how many luxury items that I'm going to buy myself. You know, yeah, I really want that skirt, but I'm going to wait until that skirt goes on sale. Or better yet, maybe I'm going to go to the consignment shop or the Goodwill and rummage through some of their items and get me something for $4 versus $40. And it's probably better, and vintage is always good, and you can get some really very good designers on consignment or at the Goodwill. You know, so you could do all of that, finding little ways to cut back. You know, with your food budget, couponing. I'm an extreme couponer, so you guys know I'm an advocate of it. You know, so how do I take that $200 monthly grocery bill and let me reduce that down to like $100? You know, let me cut that in half. Couponing is going to help me. I'm going to put in the work and add it to my schedule and make the time to save the money. All right, so I feel like that was a lot of information. I just went off the fly. I didn't have my notes. We're going to talk next week with the notes. But it was just definitely something that was timely. It's a reminder to me. And the less you spend, the more you can save. And when that goal is real and as your businesses are growing, you know, I normally use the 70-30. 70% of my income goes back into my business. 30% is my pay, you know, and that's what I put into savings or put towards whatever the goal is I have, you know. But you find what's your soft spot, what's your sweet spot. And then once you hit that goal, once you get that minimum 6 months, you know, for your living expenses, that minimum of 3 months for your business, do an assessment and say, am I comfortable making my power move right now, or do I want to keep on going to get to 12 months for my living expenses, my necessities, and 6 months for my business operating expenses? You can do it. You can make the determination. But you cannot, if you are not financially ready, when you have the 9 to 5 to support you, use it. Because everything you make from your business, everything you make from your side hustle goes completely towards your goal. And the more that you're able to reduce your expenses, the more that you're able to just make it, you know, make it easy on yourself, because you're like, when you know you have a goal and you know you're achieving that goal and you see how that bank account is stacking up and how close you're getting, when you have those long, stressful days like I've had today, you know, it just makes it that much sweeter, because in your mind, you're just like, I'm just counting down the days. I know what my bank account says. I know when I'm going to be ready. And you're going to go ahead and you're going to set yourself up for success. So thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. As usual, I appreciate you for letting me use this venue to talk real life and in the moment scenarios. And I look forward to seeing you and talking to you all again next week. Don't forget, I am on social media. We're getting our YouTube channel together, but I'm on Instagram, Angel Riley LLC. So go ahead and follow me. We're going to start carrying our conversation over to social media. And then I am also on Facebook, Angel L. Riley. You just go ahead and find my page and follow me. And we're going to have a good old time. We're going to continue the conversation and chat. And then once that YouTube is launched where you guys can catch all of these replays on YouTube, I'll be the first to let you know. Have a good night.
Thank you for tuning in. Remember, you define your own success. Believe you can do it, build a solid foundation, know your circle and soar. Until next time.